I raised a daughter from an affair I once justified as love. Now she's living the same heartbreak I caused, and turning to the woman I betrayed to help her heal. I'm a 39-year-old guy and I'm currently engaged to a woman named Rachel. She's smart, beautiful, and works in HR as a recruiter. We met on the job a few years back. She came in as a recruiter for a different team, but since we shared the same floor, we bumped into each other a lot. Before long, we started talking, joking around, and one day I figured, why not go for it? I asked her out. That one moment kicked off what would turn into a 3-year relationship. Those 3 years were steady. Sure, we had our share of disagreements like any couple, but nothing we couldn't get through. We live in the same city, so distance was never a problem. Things felt solid. So solid, in fact, that we decided to make it official and got engaged. We've been planning our wedding for next year. But lately, something's shifted. And it's not just because we don't work in the same office anymore. The problem? A guy named Brian. He's Rachel's senior teammate, been with the company longer, works on her floor. I've worked with him before. Never liked him. Something about him just doesn't sit right with me. He's one of those smooth-talking guys who knows how to make everyone laugh, but there's always this undertone, too familiar, too comfortable. Especially with Rachel. At first, I chalked it up to insecurity. But over time, things started adding up. After I moved to a different location for work, I noticed Rachel started spending a lot more time with Brian. Even though she had friends on her team, she'd go out of her way to have lunch or grab coffee with him. What really got to me was that she started packing an extra lunch, regularly, for Brian. Not just once or twice. We're talking multiple times a week. It bothered me. More than I wanted to admit at first. And I wasn't the only one noticing. The way they acted around each other, hugging a little too often, Brian putting his hand on her lower back like it was nothing. It wasn't just me picking up on that energy. I started feeling like people were whispering, like there was something unspoken about their closeness that no one wanted to say outright. So one day, I sat down with Rachel and told her how I felt. I told her the hugs, the touching, even the lunch thing, it was making me uncomfortable. And not just me. Other people were getting weird vibes too. She looked at me like I was being ridiculous. Said Brian was her best friend at work, nothing more. Said I was blowing it out of proportion and trying to control her. That cut deep. I wasn't trying to control her, I was just trying to protect something we were building. But from that day on, almost every argument we had somehow circled back to Brian. Things came to a head one day when I had to make a last-minute visit to my old office for a meeting. I didn't tell Rachel I'd be there. Honestly, I wanted to see things for myself, unfiltered. And what I saw hit me like a punch to the chest. Rachel and Brian were sitting together in the break area, practically shoulder to shoulder. Not just coworker close, but a little too close for people who are just friends. When I walked in, Rachel's eyes widened. They moved apart almost immediately, but it was too late. The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. Later, when I asked her about it, she swore up and down that I was reading too much into it. She said they were just chatting, that nothing happened. But she left out that they'd been sitting that close. She lied by omission, and that stung worse than the actual moment. I still don't know what to do. I love Rachel, I do. But I can't shake this gut feeling that something's not right. That even if she's not physically cheating, there's something emotional going on here. Something she isn't admitting, maybe even to herself. Has anyone here gone through something like this? How do you draw the line between trust and self-respect? Am I being unreasonable, or finally opening my eyes? Would really appreciate your thoughts. After the meeting, I walked straight over to where Rachel was sitting. She glanced at her phone screen when I approached, then quickly flipped it face down on the table like it was second nature. That small move, it set something off inside me. I wasn't trying to snoop, but the secrecy stung. I sent her a message, just something casual. Hey, you busy? She read it right away, then paused for a full minute before replying, in a meeting. That one lie, it hit me hard. I realized then just how many other things she might have been dishonest about. I followed up with another message, this time letting her know that I was actually in the building. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she showed the message to Brian. I saw it happen, clear as day. They both got up right after that, probably heading toward the elevator, maybe even to find me. But I didn't wait. I walked out before they could reach me. We barely said anything to each other that evening. I kept my distance and so did she. A few days later, an office-wide email went out about an upcoming trip. Something to do with client meetings and interdepartmental collaboration. I skimmed through it until I spotted their names, Rachel and Brian, both selected for the trip. My team wasn't involved, so I had no reason to be on that list, but it stung seeing the two of them paired up again. Rumor was Brian handpicked Rachel to join him. She came home that night unusually upbeat, like she'd just won something. After dinner, she started laying out clothes and organizing her things, already packing even though the trip was still a week away. I sat there watching her, trying not to let my thoughts run wild. But the excitement in her eyes felt misplaced. When I tried to bring it up gently, she cut me off before I could even finish my sentence. She accused me of trying to limit her freedom. Said I was acting like a traditional guy stuck in the past, trying to clip her wings just because she was succeeding. She told me straight out, "I'm not going to pass up a career opportunity just because you feel insecure about one of my co-workers." I didn't argue back at first. I just sat there for a while, letting her words settle in. Then I looked her in the eye and said, "I saw you and Brian having your so-called meeting in the cafeteria that day." Her expression changed. She went pale. She mumbled something about all the meeting rooms being booked, so they had no choice but to meet out in the open. I nodded slowly and replied, "Sure, I get that. But what kind of professional meeting involves him rubbing your back while you're lost in conversation?" She went quiet. I didn't accuse her of cheating. I wasn't even trying to go there. What I was trying to say was that there are boundaries, and whatever's happening between her and Brian is pushing past them. Maybe they didn't do anything physical, but emotional loyalty matters too. And honestly, if they keep going down this road unchecked, it's only a matter of time before things get worse. That night, our talk turned into a full-blown argument. It dragged on for hours. She started crying, full-on emotional breakdown, flipping the situation like I was being unreasonable, overreacting, controlling, jealous. I didn't fight her on it. The next morning, I drove her to the airport, gave her a smile, kissed her forehead, and told her good luck on her trip. I meant it too, even though my stomach was in knots the whole drive back home. Later that evening, she called to let me know she'd landed safely and was settling in for her big presentation the next day. Her voice was light, upbeat just like before. I told her I was happy for her. And I was. But that uneasy feeling? It hasn't gone away. I trust her, I want to. But Brian's presence in our relationship, whether intentional or not, has started to chip away at the foundation. If I brought any of this up with friends or family, I know what most would say: "You're overthinking it. Don't be that insecure guy." But I don't think it's insecurity when your instincts are screaming that something's off. I'm just grateful I have this space to get it all off my chest. To anyone who's been in a similar place, how did you deal with it? When is enough enough? I'll be honest, at first I worried that maybe I was coming off as too controlling. I kept questioning myself, wondering if I was crossing a line just by voicing my concerns. But reading through this community and hearing from others who've been in similar shoes helped me realize something important. I wasn't trying to control Rachel, I was just trying to protect what we had. I was noticing red flags and for once not ignoring them. After my last post, I spent a lot of time scrolling through stories on here, especially the ones about partners crossing lines during work trips. And let me tell you, it shook me up more than I expected. The more I read, the more anxious I became. I didn't want to be paranoid, but I couldn't help imagining different scenarios in my head. Rachel's behavior started to change almost immediately after she came back from the trip. She went from being independent, sometimes even a little distant, to suddenly needing to be around me all the time. She was texting constantly, wanting to know where I was, what I was doing when I'd be home. I'm not saying I didn't appreciate the attention, but it felt sudden. Like a switch had flipped. Part of me wondered if she was acting out of guilt. Maybe she hadn't done anything wrong, but was feeling conflicted about something. Or maybe she was genuinely missing me more. I couldn't tell. What confused me even more was how Brian just seemed to disappear from the conversation. She never mentioned his name again. I didn't see his texts pop up, and she didn't seem to be messaging him at all. It was like he had been erased from the picture overnight. I started paying closer attention, not to catch her in something, but to try to make sense of what was happening. One afternoon, I called her office after dropping by earlier and noticing she looked pale and off balance. I thought she might have gotten sick or something. She didn't answer my call at first, which had me worried, so I kept trying. Eventually, she called me back and said she'd been caught up in a meeting. I asked what the meeting was about, just out of concern, not suspicion. She got snappy and said, "It's work. Why are you asking me this?" Then I asked if she was still at the office and she snapped again, "Yes, where else would I be on a Wednesday afternoon?" She hung up right after. That call left me with this weird hollow feeling in my chest. Not just from what she said, but from how she said it. Something was off. Then, completely out of the blue, she brought up the idea of transferring to my office location. Just mentioned it casually, like it was nothing. I asked her why, if something was bothering her where she was, if she was unhappy, or if maybe something had happened between her and Brian that she wasn't saying. She brushed it off and said everything was fine. No explanation. Just that she thought it might be nice to work closer to me. But I couldn't ignore that the shift in her behavior started right after that trip with Brian. When I pressed her about it, she chalked it up to feeling disappointed in herself. Said her presentation didn't go as planned and she was worried it would hurt her chances of getting promoted. I tried to be reassuring, told her one hiccup wasn't going to define her. But something still didn't sit right with me. What confused me most was how disconnected Brian suddenly became. I checked her texts, just the recent ones, and the last message between them had happened before she left for the trip. Nothing since. I even glanced through her social media DMs, not to invade her privacy but because I needed peace of mind. There was nothing suspicious there either. Just routine conversations with coworkers and friends. And still, I couldn't let go of that feeling in my gut that something was out of sync. It's strange how silence can be more unsettling than anything else. Like someone slammed a door quietly instead of slamming it loud, and you're just left standing there wondering what it means. Not long after all the tension started building up, I happened to come across something on Rachel's phone that sent me into a full-blown spiral. It was a notification from a health app. She had scheduled an appointment with a gynecologist right after coming back from that business trip, the one she took with Brian. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. So I opened the app and checked the results. To my relief, everything came back negative. No infections, no concerning results. But still, I couldn't shake the question. Why did she feel the need to take that test in the first place? We hadn't been intimate in almost a month. Not because of any arguments or lack of interest, just life, work, stress. That gap made her decision feel suspicious. Out of sheer panic, I looked up why someone might need to take that kind of test. That's when I stumbled across a medical explanation for something called postcoital bleeding, bleeding that can occur after rough or forceful intercourse. My stomach dropped. I've never, not once, been rough with Rachel. That's just not who we are with each other. So I was left with only two possibilities, and one of them tore me apart. I sat with it for a while, trying to breathe, trying to figure out what to say or if I should even say anything at all. But I couldn't live in that silence. When I finally brought it up, I tried to keep my voice calm. I told her I'd been by her office the day before and was told she had taken leave. That threw me, because she had told me she was still working that day. She froze. Then she admitted, almost without thinking, that she had lied. She told me she had been at an adoption clinic. Said she panicked when I called and made something up because she was feeling anxious. But I wasn't buying it. I interrupted her. I told her straight, I think you cheated on me. She tried to twist it. Claimed she was just being cautious with her health. That she needed peace of mind. That STIs can cause those symptoms too. But it was too late. My trust had already started to collapse under the weight of her lies. I told her I needed space. That I couldn't think straight in the middle of all this. She didn't take it well. The conversation turned into a screaming match, her trying desperately to justify everything, throwing flimsy excuses in every direction. But none of them felt like the truth. I felt myself boiling over. And I knew I had to walk away before I said or did something I'd regret. So I left. She cried. Pleaded with me not to go. Said she could explain. That I was blowing things out of proportion. But I didn't look back. I packed a few things and went to stay with my parents. I needed air, space, and a clear head. She's been calling and texting ever since. Apologizing, trying to reconnect, trying to make me see her side. But I haven't answered. I couldn't, not yet. Then, about a week later, I got a call that blindsided me. It was from the director of our company. She asked me to come to her office immediately, said it was urgent. I rushed over thinking it was about work. When I sat down across from her, she looked serious. Not angry, just concerned. She got right to the point. Rachel's proposal was rejected. The designs were leaked to a competitor. My heart dropped. That project was a major deal, not just for Rachel but for the company. It was the kind of project that could make or break someone's career. Then she said something that stopped me cold. We think Brian might have been involved. And we believe Rachel trusted him too much. The director knew Rachel and I were engaged. She didn't spell it out, but she didn't have to. She was giving me the truth I hadn't been ready to hear before. Rachel had confided in the wrong person. And all my worst fears, the ones I tried to push away, reason through, explain, were staring me in the face now. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. Hearing it from someone else, it just made it all real. I sat in that office chair, completely numb. My mind couldn't catch up with what I'd just been told. The director had laid it all out for me, and as if that wasn't enough, the next blow came when Brian's wife reached out. She had proof. She showed me a photo, one I wish I could unsee. It was Rachel and Brian, both undressed, clearly in a hotel room. Rachel looked gone. Intoxicated. And not just on alcohol, maybe. But what shook me wasn't just what I saw, it was the timeline. This happened during their so-called business trip. That image, it burned into my mind. My first instinct was rage. I wanted Rachel out of my life right then and there. No conversations, no tears, just gone. But what caught me off guard was the way Brian's wife looked. Devastated, crying uncontrollably. She was shaking, barely able to form sentences. She told me she'd found the photo by accident after secretly accessing Brian's laptop. Said he'd left it open when he came home from the trip. Curious, or maybe just following her own suspicions, she'd gone through his emails. What she uncovered was worse than either of us could have imagined. She didn't just find the affair. She found emails, plans, attachments, files, that pointed to something even more sinister. Rachel and Brian weren't just having an affair. They had conspired together, used that trip as a cover to leak confidential material to one of our competitors. They had schemed behind the company's back, betrayed everything and everyone who had trusted them. She forwarded all the evidence to me, screenshots, documents, everything, and urged me to take action. And still, despite everything I just heard, what stunned me the most was how involved Rachel actually was. This wasn't something she got dragged into. She was a key part of it. I went home that night, not knowing what I'd even say to her. I half expected the house to be empty. But she was there. Sitting on the couch like she'd been waiting. She looked nothing like the woman I knew. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow. She looked like a shell of herself, no pun intended. But the truth is, I didn't feel anything for her anymore. I had given her every chance to be honest, every chance to do right by what we had. And she threw it all away over and over again. She looked at me like she wanted to explain, like she was hoping to find a shred of mercy in my expression. But I had none left to give. She tried to minimize it at first. Tried to spin it like maybe things weren't how they looked. But I wasn't having it. I pulled up the photo, the one her affair partner's wife had sent me, and held it out. Explain this. She went quiet. Completely still. I don't know if she was still lying or if Brian had manipulated her, but honestly, I didn't care anymore. That woman sitting across from me wasn't the Rachel I thought I knew. Somewhere along the way she became someone else entirely, someone who lived a double life and never thought I'd find out. I told her, clearly and calmly, whatever the reason, whatever the excuse, this doesn't change the fact that you became a person I can't even look at anymore. And nothing you say now will make this okay. She broke down. Full-on sobbing. Clutching my arm, begging for another chance. But all I felt was disgust. There was no room left for forgiveness. Not after everything. Ending the engagement wasn't easy, but it had to be done. I took off the ring and tossed it at Rachel. There was no dramatic speech, just one final demand: leave. She pleaded with me, begged me not to ruin her career. But I told her the truth, it wasn't up to me. That ship had already sailed the moment she made her choices. I wasn't the one who destroyed her future. She did that all on her own long before I found out. And as much as this whole thing hurts, there's a strange sense of relief too. I dodged something toxic. I loved someone who turned out to be a stranger. An imposter hiding behind smiles and affection, working every angle behind my back. It's wild how she had the nerve to ask me to protect her, even after everything. After she partnered with Brian, someone she knew I didn't trust. Someone who clearly never had good intentions. And she wasn't just working with him. She was playing the game from every side. I just happened to be one of the pieces. You know, all this chaos in my life lately made me think about how far betrayal can stretch through time, how old wounds come back in unexpected ways. Years ago when I was younger, I made mistakes of my own. Back then, I had an affair. With a married man. His name was Thomas and he eventually became my husband. At the time it felt like something real, something rare. We were both in dark places, telling ourselves stories about how we deserved happiness, even if it came at someone else's expense. His wife's name was Mary and yes, he left her for me. We told ourselves that love justified the damage. But deep down I think we always knew we were trying to outrun the consequences. It wasn't easy. Thomas and I went through a lot to hold things together. We sought counseling, we confronted the guilt, we built a life anyway. We knew what we did was wrong. And over time we thought we had made peace with the past. But nothing stays buried forever. Fast forward years later, our daughter Anna, our pride and joy, got married at 23. It was a beautiful ceremony. She seemed so happy. And then, just 10 months into her marriage, she found out her husband had been cheating. I held her while she cried. Tried to help her heal. But part of me, deep down, was drowning in guilt. Because suddenly I wasn't just comforting my daughter. I was seeing Mary's pain all those years ago. I wondered if she had sat alone in her bedroom sobbing like this. If she'd looked at her life and felt like everything she built had been ripped out from under her. And then the unthinkable happened. One night, Thomas and I were talking, just the two of us, and Anna overheard part of our conversation. She picked up on more than we realized. A few days later, she came to me with tear-filled eyes and asked a question that shattered me. Was I the child of an affair? I froze. But there was no more hiding. I owed her the truth. I told her everything. She broke down. Called me a homewrecker. Told me she hated being the result of someone else's heartbreak. That she wished she'd never known. It was like watching her get hit by a train I had set in motion decades ago. Thomas tried to calm her down. Said it was all in the past. But the damage was done. Turns out, her sister-in-law had overheard the story too, and had promised to never say a word, unless Anna asked. And when Anna came looking for answers, she told her everything. Now, Anna won't speak to either of us. She's angry, confused, and I get it. The truth has a way of burning everything down even when it's meant to heal. To make matters worse, Anna tracked down Mary. Apparently she still lives in the same town as us. She's remarried now, has children of her own. She moved on, built a new life. And yet, somehow, we're all tangled up in the wreckage of a past none of us can change. So here I am, sitting in a life I helped build from broken pieces, now watching it crack again from a different angle. I lost Rachel because of betrayal. And now I might lose my daughter, because I once did the same thing. It's strange how things come full circle. Sometimes the hurt you cause comes back wearing a different face. I've been struggling to make sense of why my daughter, Anna, would turn away from us so suddenly, and even now, I'm not sure I fully understand. All I know is this: I would do anything to make it right. I never wanted her to feel like she was the product of a lie. She isn't. She's the result of love, however messy and flawed the beginning may have been. I've made mistakes. I own that. I carry the weight of the choices I made. But I never wanted Anna to carry that burden too. After Thomas divorced Mary, she cut off everyone connected to him, including him. Honestly, during that time, I was so caught up in the whirlwind of my pregnancy and our new life that I didn't give much thought to his past. I didn't look back. I didn't ask for closure. I didn't think it mattered anymore. Looking back now, I wish I had tried harder to understand what Mary must have gone through. Still, Thomas was a good man to me and an even better father to Anna. Whatever mistakes he made in his past, they never bled into how he raised our daughter. In fact, I remember how seriously he took his role in her life. Before Anna got married, he sat her down and gave her a heartfelt talk about what loyalty means in a marriage. It came from a place of regret and growth. He never once taught her to be unfaithful, only how to be better than we were. Just to be clear, Thomas and Mary never had kids together. And when I first met him, I didn't even know he was married. I learned the truth too late. But by then we were already caught up in something that felt bigger than either of us. When everything came to light with Anna, we decided to give her space. We didn't reach out, didn't try to force her to talk. We knew we needed to let her process it in her own time. She stopped speaking to us shortly before I made my first post here. What I didn't know then was that she had reached out to Mary. A week passed and then yesterday Anna messaged us. She said she wanted to talk. She invited us to come to her place. And for the first time in over a week, I held my daughter again. She hugged us. Tightly. She'd spoken with Mary and they had a long, emotional conversation. Mary told her the truth, her truth. About the pain she endured after the divorce. How she had to rebuild her life from the ground up. How she moved back in with her parents, sank into depression and slowly, with time, found love again. 2 years after the divorce, Mary met her current husband. They fell in love, got married, and eventually moved to our town for work. She's got a family now, and according to Anna, she's genuinely happy. Mary told Anna that she didn't harbor hate. She told her that yes, she was deeply hurt, but she also said something that broke me a little inside. She told Anna that she was a beautiful soul who deserved better. And that no matter how she came into this world, she should never carry the shame of her parents' mistakes. Mary reminded her that life is full of broken paths, but sometimes even broken things can lead to blessings. And then she said something I'll never forget. If I hadn't gone through what I did, I might not have ended up where I am now. I wouldn't have met the man I love. I wouldn't have the family I have today. She told Anna not to waste her life dwelling on her parents' flaws. That forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, but it frees us from carrying pain that was never ours to begin with. Hearing all this secondhand, I couldn't stop the tears. I'll admit it, I've always had a quiet jealousy toward Mary. She's kind, strong, and full of grace. She survived heartbreak and found something better on the other side. But more than that, she gave my daughter the one thing I couldn't in that moment: understanding. We're still a long way from healing fully, but we've taken a step. And for now, that's enough. Anna isn't the product of betrayal. She's the result of survival, of hard lessons, of imperfect people trying to love the best way they could. She's not a mistake. She's a miracle. And I'm proud of her. There's something I've been struggling to admit, even to myself. I know I can never measure up to the kind of strength Mary has shown. And part of me feels like I don't deserve to. Because I did something terrible once, something that changed the course of more than one life. The guilt, it's heavy. And it's not something that fades with time. Especially now, watching my daughter walk through a pain I helped cause. Anna hasn't forgiven us yet. And that's okay. She's trying to make sense of her feelings. She needs space. She needs honesty. And she's found comfort in talking to Mary, someone who understands the weight of betrayal far better than I ever will. Mary has given her advice on how to survive heartbreak, how to rebuild. I told Anna we'll give her the space she needs, that we love her without conditions, that no matter what, we'll always be here when she's ready. But the truth is, these past few days have been some of the most emotionally exhausting of my life. I'm not upset that Anna wants to talk to Mary. I understand it. I respect it. But there's a small, selfish part of me that aches when I realize she trusts Mary more than she trusts me right now. I don't blame her. I just miss her. And so, to Mary, if you ever read this or if Anna ever shows it to you, I just want to say thank you. You didn't have to be kind. But you were. You must have endured a pain like no other, and somehow, you still found it in yourself to comfort my daughter when I couldn't. I hope one day you'll find it in your heart to forgive. If not me, then at least the part of me that's trying to do better. Because I see now that you are a good person. A kind person. And I'm sorry that my choices hurt you so deeply. Mary's perspective. It's been many years since I've had any contact with Thomas, or anyone connected to that part of my life. I never expected to speak to his daughter. Certainly not like this. Back in our college days, Thomas and I met like so many do, young, wide-eyed, ready to take on the world together. We fell in love. We got married. We built our life brick by brick, believing we were laying the foundation for forever. And when the time came, we decided we were ready to start a family. But as life would have it, it wasn't so simple for us. We tried. And tried. But nothing happened. Infertility became a quiet storm between us. We didn't talk about it much. The disappointment grew heavier by the month. I blamed myself. He became distant. Then came the truth, the kind that rips your heart out in one breath. He had gotten another woman pregnant. While I was breaking apart silently over every negative test, he had been cheating. And not just with anyone. I knew her. She worked at the bakery down the street, a place he conveniently visited more often than I realized. Suddenly everything made sense. And nothing did. When I confronted him, we argued, loud, raw, painful words. He told me he wanted to be with her. That it made more sense staying with the mother of his child. I was livid, broken, humiliated. I packed up and left. I cut all contact. I didn't want to hear his excuses. I didn't want to know how their life unfolded. I moved back home, lived with my parents, and tried to heal. It was hard. I went through a dark chapter: depression, isolation, bitterness. I thought love had failed me for good. But time has a strange way of reshaping everything. 2 years later, I met Bill. A good, honest man. We didn't rush things. We talked, laughed. We fell in love in a way that felt safe, healing. When I became pregnant with our son, we got married. And somewhere along the way, joy returned to my life. We welcomed twin daughters a few years later. I had a new family, one built from hope instead of heartbreak. Years later, Bill got an amazing job offer, in the very town I once ran from. Surprisingly, living here again hasn't haunted me the way I thought it might. Life has moved on. And so have I. But then Anna showed up. She found me. She was kind, curious, hurting. I saw myself in her. I saw a younger me trying to piece together a story she didn't write, but still had to carry. And I didn't push her away. Because as much as I was wronged, this wasn't her fault. She didn't choose how she came into this world. What I told her was simple. You are not a mistake. You are not a lie. You are a beautiful soul who deserves better than what your parents gave each other. And I meant every word. About 15 years ago, during a family picnic at a local park, I ran into Thomas for the first time in years. I didn't expect to see him there. It had been over a decade since our painful separation, and I had done everything in my power to bury that chapter deep in the past. But there he was. Older, quieter. And when he saw me, he came over and apologized. I wasn't sure what to say. But somewhere inside me, I found the strength to accept it. Not for him, but for me. Forgiveness, as I've learned, doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over resentment. I thought that would be the end of it. Until recently, when something unexpected happened. My husband, Bill, encouraged me to meet her, Anna, Thomas's daughter. The child that, once upon a time, symbolized everything I had lost. He said that maybe a conversation would help bring closure. Maybe, in talking to her, I could rewrite the ending of a story that had caused me so much pain. So I agreed. I invited her over to our home. When she walked through the door, I felt time collapse in on itself. She looked so much like her mother, except for her nose, which she must have gotten from Thomas. It was surreal, painful, but also strangely comforting. She sat down, tears in her eyes, and poured her heart out. Her husband had cheated on her, and she was devastated. So much so, she admitted that she had even considered ending her life. She was in pieces. I wrapped my arms around her and just held her while she cried. And then I cried with her. I told her as honestly as I could, "You are not broken. You are not to blame. His actions say everything about him and nothing about your worth." We sat in my living room for a long time just talking. Anna confessed that when she learned about her parents' affair and how it hurt me, she was filled with anger. She now saw her mom as a homewrecker, her dad a cheater. And in that pain, she realized she was living the very nightmare that destroyed my marriage all those years ago. She was scared she'd inherited their mistakes. That maybe love just wasn't meant to last. But I told her the truth. We are not doomed to repeat our parents' pasts. We are allowed to learn from them. We are allowed to become something better. And I didn't hold it against her, any of it. Not her birth, not her mother, not even Thomas anymore. Time had softened the rage I once carried. I didn't feel hatred anymore, just understanding. Life is never black and white. Before she left, I packed her a box of my homemade cookies. She smiled, a real smile, and asked if we could stay in touch. I said yes. I meant it. Bill and I will be moving soon. Our son is heading off to college and our twin daughters won't be far behind. We've decided to sell the house and return to our hometown. A quieter pace. Familiar roots. Until then, Anna and I will keep talking. Carefully. Kindly. With boundaries. We both need that. It's wild to think that 25 years ago, I was cursing her family, angry, heartbroken, betrayed. And now, somehow, I've come to feel nothing but compassion. I don't know if forgiveness heals everything. But sometimes, forgiveness gives you just enough light to stop carrying the darkness.